All right, hey, welcome back. Today we're going to look at one of my favorites. It's a Square D or a Schneider electric. It's the NW series. This is a 1600 amp breaker, NW16. And we're going to take today, we've got a motor operator behind this cover. This one is a particular model, is a manually operated and electrically operated. So our problem is we have a customer that needs this motor behind this faceplate. It will not electrically charge, and we know through testing the motor is bad. So we're going to show you how to swap that motor out today. All right, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to take and remove our cover. You've got 5 bolts that I've already loosened here, but they're in the corners. 5 little screws right here around the perimeter. Take those, back them out. You got 2 at the bottom and 3 at the top. Back those out, and this whole cover should pop forward a little bit. And being that it is manually operated as well, just be careful with your handle. When you're coming out, the handle will slide with it. See, the handle stays right there. So we'll get that cover out of the way. Move him to the side. Now, what we've got to have, I'm going to flip the breaker up on its back to where you can see a little better view here. But we're going to change little stout there. We're going to change this whole motor unit right here. So we're going to take and go in. Here's the retaining Allen head screw right here. Loosen that with a 4mm Allen head wrench. Yes, I did say metric. Break it loose. I like the fact they've got a hole right here. You can just go through the side frame. This particular breaker is a bolt-in version because it's got the side plates on it. So we'll go through the side plate, loosen our one and only retaining bolt. Now the bolt will stay in there, but it's a captured one. So we just pull it back there, and the spacer and bolt will all stay with the motor but come with it. So also, let's stand this guy back up. I want you to be able to see. I know when I watch a video, I want to see what's that guy talking about. So right here, this is going to be all of your control circuits are going to be behind this cover here. So we're going to loosen these 2 screws and take this cover off. And then what that's going to do is going to allow us to get to the motor circuit when we change the motor. So simple little screws here. Take those guys out. Take both of them out. Get a little screwdriver in there. One thing I like about Masterpact and this series of breakers they've got, we've gone to a plastic world as far as breakers are concerned. They do make them lighter and all of that, but they've done a great job with the Masterpact of really making a concerted effort about placing everything where you can work on it. You can get to it fairly easy. We don't want to go into the mechanism or behind the mechanism just yet, but accessing the contacts, all of that, fairly easy to do on this model. The NW series, which this one is, that screw's about 3 miles long. The NW series goes all the way up to 5,000 amps. And it can take this series, can go all the way down to 800. And then you've got the NT series, is like its baby brother. Okay, see the little screws in this guy right here? They're a mile long. But that right there has a code. You probably can't make it out, but each notch has a code, and that code tells you what the specific control is for, like a shunt trip or a closing coil. And they're all wired into this row of termination points. So set that guy aside. We know just by doing this first, when you see it slide out of the track, that is your motor charging part. That's your control voltage, right, or your control circuit for your motor. Now, we're going to take this motor, we've already loosened our base bolt, tilt it forward slightly. You've got to be real careful because it is a keyed unit. Sometimes they're a little snug. Get that bolt to back out. Once it goes, it goes. It's keyed onto a shaft. I'll show you that. Can you see that key right there? There's a keyway, that little roll pin. It's keyed to that notch. If you can see this notch right here, It has to time with this guy right here. If not, it'll never go in. That's what makes them a little hard to get out, but you want it timed to where when this goes in, the motor goes in, it's timed up with the handle. Both of them are able to charge this stored energy mechanism right here. So let's get a new motor. And this is, I want to show you, this is a 120. They mark it as a, you see that label right there? This label is says it's MCH XM. That's your motor charging. That's your abbreviation that matches the code we talked about a minute ago. But this motor, make sure you match the voltage 100 to 130 VAC. So this is the 120 for all intent and purposes. This is a 120 volt motor. So let's set this guy back up just to make her a little easier. You can see her there. You see that okay? We can take the new motor. It has its retaining screw and spacer built in. Now, we're going to go in kind of at an angle. Raise your handle a little bit to clear the back armature of the charging motor. Let it slide under there. Now, back to that keyway we was talking about, that timed keyway. It can be a little tricky going back on. Just have to, don't try to force it. Just wiggle it in there and she'll walk right on there. Once it does, handle falls in place, your bolt hole lines up. But this motor, just like opposite when we took it out, it has to drop down into that keeper right here. That's what keeps it notched in the top, and you got the one anchor bolt in the bottom. So tighten this guy back up. Once you get him all the way ran down, give her one good little snug tight. Now, I like to, before I put the cover and everything back on, I like to run that motor. I want to make sure that what I just replaced is working before I put everything back together. So let's do that. You got to be careful doing the controls. We're going to do it with a live voltage, but again, this pops in with a clip to the front, slides back in a little track system like our old motor was, and then your retainer would go in front of that, just like it came out. So get those just to hang on there, make sure you're all the way back. We haven't tightened it down, but before we bolt everything back up, I've got a small control. This is a secondary that comes from Snyder Electric. I've already got it wired with an external control power. So what I'm going to do, real neat, it goes on the same bay, clicks right into, I'm already set up to charge and run the motor and the motor cutoff circuit. So you should hear both of those if we did it right. So I'm going to step off and give it a test shot. Okay, you heard the motor run, then you heard that distinctive pop at the end. That was a full cycle of the charging spring, and the motor cutoff switch is timed with the manual handle, so it cuts off and it's fully charged. And to prove that, we can go to our close button, manually test it, close it. That discharges that charge we just installed, and now we can trip the breaker back open and all clear. So for simplicity, you tighten those two screws up, get rid of your little controls here, take that out before you tighten everything up, get it separate, and you would put your cover back on. Real simple. So we want to take and make sure that with these, if you have any problems with these control motors, don't try to force this. If you have trouble with it, give us a call, give us an email, whatever. We'll be glad to walk you through it, walk through it over the phone, or we can give other tutorial videos to help as well. So hopefully that's helped you, but hit us up, drop us a line, let us know how you feel about all this, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one. We're going to talk about replacing our control circuits and our manual charging handle for the NW breaker. Thank you.